In the context of language education, drag and drop is a feature of e-learning that creates opportunities around the manipulation of text. You can, for example, reorganize bits of text and assess relationships between ideas or syntactic relationships between elements of the text. And you can see the context in which those bits of text are placed. The same kind of manipulation of text is more difficult to achieve in traditional paper-based learning. In Xerti, you can create gap fill, matching, categorizing, ordering, and labeling tasks which make use of drag and drop. So in this video, let's have a quick look at these types of tasks. Here's a gap fill task created with the gap fill drag and drop format, focusing on a text about the Isle of Man. If a word or phrase is correctly placed, the gap accepts it and marks it correct. If it's wrongly placed, the word or phrase bounces back for the learner to redrag to a different gap. Notice that you can also add distractors, as has been done here, and that raises the level of challenge. As an alternative, you can set up the task so that a word or phrase is accepted into a gap whether it's correctly or incorrectly placed. The feedback is only given at the end of the task, and students can reattempt the task until they get it correct. This is a matching task created with the Matching Texts page type, and this task tests learners' understanding of the ways in which we use conjunctions on the one hand and prepositions or prepositional phrases on the other. Notice that here the draggable items are presented one by one, and that you only get feedback at the end of the task. Students can also re-drag the items if they get them wrong. If you're matching beginnings and ends of sentences, it's a good idea to right-justify the beginnings of the sentences, as has been done here, so that the matches look like sentences rather than two columns of phrases or clauses. This is a categorizing task created with the Categories page type. Like the previous task, this focuses on conjunctions and prepositions or prepositional phrases. Again, the draggable items are presented one by one, and you can move items from one column to another. Theoretically, you can have as many columns as you want and as many draggable items as you want, but in practice it's generally better to have a maximum of 4 columns and perhaps a maximum of 6 items per column. There is no Xerte page type specifically for creating an ordering or prioritizing task, but you can do this with other pages. The most obvious page type to use is Sortable Grid, which enables you to create a grid in which all the cells are potentially draggable. In practice, you'll probably want to lock down at least one of the columns or rows in the grid. Here is an example of a sortable grid page comprising 3 columns with the first and last columns locked. And this task focuses on language for expressing cause and effect. Here's another example of a sortable grid page. This time the grid has been reduced to just 1 column to create a task asking learners to analyse what aspects of job satisfaction are most and least important for them. There is no correct answer, of course, but because this task type assumes there is one, the text from the check button has been removed. It's still there in the bottom left corner of the page, but it's unlikely a learner will see it. Finally, we have the drag and drop labeling page type. Here, you create an image and then you mark up drop zones over the image. Each drop zone accepts a word or phrase that you've associated with the drop zone. In this case, the image comprises a number of shapes that show directions of movement. But the image could also include text. So you could create a task in which, for example, students complete a mind map with some of the text already in place. So, to summarize, you can create a number of different tasks that involve drag and drop. And these include gap fill, matching, categorizing, ordering or prioritizing tasks, and image labeling tasks. You need to think carefully about the XOT page type that you choose to meet your needs, as there's some overlap in what is possible. And each page type provides different learning opportunities, which may not be immediately apparent. Please click on like if you found this video useful, and do add any questions or comments to this YouTube page. Finally, you can subscribe to this channel to hear about more videos on Xerte.